As he is with any NFL story, our brother Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports is all over. Matter of fact, he is the go-to source for whatever this negotiation or non-negotiation, as the case may be, between the Jets and the Packers, what this is at this point. And Charles, I just want to make sure I got this right, because I was pissed last time at the idea that the Jets would want 25 draft compensation in the event that the quarterback that they're choosing to trade for retires after 1 year. So there's that. But your latest, which everybody is picking up now, is that the Packers are okay with that part of it, but they want to hold firm on a 24 first-round pick, which Woody Johnson has reservations about because he's worried about Russell Wilson and how that turned out for the Broncos. Again, why is that the Packers' problem?
No, I mean, nobody's saying it's the Packers' problem. It's the Jets' problem.
when you talk, right, but when you talk to your sources on both sides, because you've been so plugged in on this, can you please talk some sense into them, please?
You know how it is, man. Everyone assesses value in their own way and risk in their own way. And, I think what happened was we had a situation where, remember, before the Jets even met with Aaron Rodgers, there had already been quite a few back and forths on compensation, right? So they were in a compensation zone. They felt, I think both sides felt like we know where we're at on this. And, when you talk to the Packers, and the Packers aren't saying this. I mean, they won't say this publicly. I mean, maybe at some point they'll say this publicly once it's all done. I think the Packers thought they already had a deal in place. And then they felt like something changed. All of a sudden the Jets changed gears on them. And so the question is, well, why would the Jets change gears? And again, I keep bringing this up, the darkness retreat, the comment Aaron Rodgers said about, hey, I felt like I was 90% retired when I went into that. And I think, so you're Woody Johnson, you're the Jets owner. Now here's the buffet of things now you're thinking about. You're going, okay, now I just heard this guy say he was 90% retired when he went into the darkness retreat, and I really want to have this guy for at least 2 years. Can I trust that he's going to be here in 2 years? Remember, this is a guy who just signed a big long-term contract extension, and then 1 year later, he was already contemplating retirement. Can I trust that he really does want to be here for 2 years if he comes here? So that's one. Then it's number two. We think we bring him in, it turns the key on our roster. We're a Super Bowl roster. We're a Super Bowl team. I just watched the Broncos go through that same experience with Russell Wilson, crashed and burned, and now Seattle's picking at 5 with their draft choice.
Then don't trade for him, Woody.
I get it.
Don't trade for him.
Right. Listen, I don't disagree with you. And
I'm just using you as a proxy. I'm just yelling through you.
I get it. But here's the thing. I think if it gets locked up, this is so locked up that they just can't find the middle ground. And I can tell you where it is right now, exactly. But if they just can't find some kind of middle ground here, if you're the Jets and you're just not going to be comfortable with it, you got to walk. You just got to walk and go, okay, we're going to figure out what the plan B is. And then you leave it to the Packers now to sort out. You're now on the hook for that $58 million. When the season starts, when the regular season starts, there's $58 million plus you owe Aaron Rodgers. And you've already put yourself in a predicament where you're like, we've moved on to Jordan Love, we're gonna, and now what are you gonna do now if you're the Packers? So there's a lot of stuff the Packers got to deal with too. If the Jets just go, you know what, we can't do this. This is enough. We want Aaron wants us. It's not gonna work, and now we got to move on. But let me real quick. I'll do this fast because I know we got limited time. Where it's at right now, Packers would like second rounder this year, straight first rounder next year with no qualifiers whatsoever, and they would be willing to, no conditions, and they would be willing to include a 2025 draft give back if for some reason Aaron Rodgers retires after 2023 and does not play for the Jets in 2024. So there's that. The Jets, conversely, would like it to be a 2 this year, a 2 next year that could graduate into a first round pick. Now the exact rules of how that would graduate would still have to be negotiated out. But now I think the Jets, if they could get that, the 2 this year and a 2 that graduates next year, I think the Jets would be okay saying we don't need a give back in 2025. So that's kind of where it is right now.
Okay.
So you figure it out. You tell me, how does that work out?
There's light at the end of this tunnel.
Is there though? They're not talking, but they're not talking right now. So is there?
Okay.
They're not currently speaking to each other. So
then the arbitrator. Take it to arbitration. Take
it to Charles Robinson.
Take it to Charles Robinson.
Charles will do this for free.
Like, Charles would be like, listen, I hear you. Okay, I hear you. But what I hear him saying is this. You understand? No, just listen. So, Charles, I want to talk to you about expansion because last time we had an expansion team in the NFL, I think it was 2002, the Texans. They played the Cowboys in that first game. It was great. You know, had David Carr at quarterback for the Texans. And we have another expansion team coming up in the 2023 season. It's a Washington franchise. It's a new start in Washington, Charles. Are you gonna go to their first game? The Josh Harris, Magic Johnson ownership group with the Commanders. There's light. There's freedom and liberation in D.C. Amanla, freedom. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about this with Washington?
As one person said to me, and I don't think it's a great one for one, but I kind of get where he was coming from. He was like, this is like Fidel Castro passing away. He's like, this is like the end of the era. I'm like, yeah. I was like, I don't think Cuba really got that much better. I'm like, have you been to Cuba? It's still pretty rough. Like, it's still pretty rough there. So, you know, it's a process. But yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in seeing what the vision is, because that's the thing. There needs to be a cohesive vision for new stadium, the culture changes you want to make, getting a real Sean Taylor statue that's not a wire mannequin. You know, there's a laundry list of things that I think when ownership ultimately does change hands for $6.05 billion or $6.1 billion or whatever it's ultimately going to be. You have to have a plan now. It feels good, but if you don't have a plan, that doesn't mean anything.
Well, but if nothing else, they'll be able to coast for a while on just not being the Snyders. Like, you know, there's nowhere to go but up in many respects. Two other things we want to hit with you before we run out of time. Lamar. So it's funny, when we talked about the Odell signing on Monday, and the difference between me and you, Charles, is I think you know, right? I'm like, you know what? Odell Beckham just wanted his money. He wanted that APY. He wanted something that was market value for what he thought he still brought to the table. If it was about playing with a good quarterback, he'd have been with Dallas or Buffalo last season. If he just wanted to test
That's absolutely right.
I figured he didn't have any assurances, but what I did think was that this was Baltimore saying, "Hey, we'll spend money, and even if it's not going in your pocket, Lamar Jackson, we'll spend money on you indirectly by upgrading your supporting cast with a proven veteran receiver." How much does this close the gap, if you will, even if not contractually, personally? Because it's personal for Lamar Jackson, because he's representing himself in this negotiation between Lamar and the Ravens.
I would think that I don't know that it really ultimately changes contractually where any of this is going. I don't think Lamar all of a sudden is going to change his stance because they go out and spend $15 million on Odell Beckham Jr. I do think that for Lamar Jackson, it makes coming back and playing next season on the tag a little more attractive, which is what I think is going to end up happening. I feel like this is what's going to happen. Like he's now looking at a player that he believes is, you know, hey, he's healthy, a dynamic player in this league, they're paying him to be a true number one. So it's another chess piece on the board for him to work with. And frankly, that can help him have a great 2023. And once again, you know, now you're looking at maybe a tag in 2024, but it does help Lamar. But that is the perfect take on it. This was not, it wasn't a two-way street where it's like, okay, you got, you know, Odell coming in from here and Lamar coming in from there. No, it was a one-way street. It was Odell going straight for the money. And if Lamar's there, great. But I still got my $15 million.
I got my 15, and I'm going to get my targets because ain't no other wide receiver to speak of, no disrespect, to compete with. Last thing before we let you go, bro. Speaking of, like, the Ravens, at one point, there was smoke about, could they be an Anthony Richardson sweepstakes? Anthony Richardson might be long gone because we got Joseph Person from The Athletic saying, according to a source of his, don't sleep on Anthony Richardson, that it's not just a two-man race for the Carolina Panthers at number one between Stroud and Young. that Richardson is still under consideration, quote unquote, by the Carolina Panthers. Michael, I told you I'd look at this dude with the number 1 overall pick. Charles, what are you hearing about A-Rich and the possibility of him going number 1 to the Panthers? That's the one way to replace Cam Newton, is with the new Cam Newton.
I absolutely think it's legitimate that he is part of the assessment, and it's simply because of when you look at him and what he brings to the table. He has something. He even has a package athletically as an athlete that's better than C.J. Stroud. It's better than Bryce Young. So of course he has to be part of that conversation. But you have to go down the road with Frank Reich about, okay, now what is the plan for development? Let's look at the downside plays when he was at Florida, the limitations, the lack of a long resume there. We need all concrete answers on all of this. It ultimately becomes a conversation not so much about we have to take Bryce Young or we have to take C.J. Stroud. It becomes a conversation of we have to make sure we don't pass on special. And if this guy is special, even if it's a longer road, you take the special.
Some people can't help. You can't like Mike, Charles can't help some people. I hope they do it. I do too. Some people just can't help him.
Charles,
you can't help him.
Mike is pounding the table for C.J. Stroud at number. He is standing on the table.
Obvious. It's so obvious. He's the best quarterback. It's obvious. It's obvious.
Just clip it. Clip this.
Y'all got too much time. They got too much time to evaluate. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna look at something else. Go ahead, take Anthony Richardson. Go ahead, do it. Congratulations.
Charles,
you like
I'll talk
it,
to you
I love
about 5 minutes about another dynasty trade. Stay by your phone.
All right, I'll talk to you guys later.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.